Okay, Madam Chair, we are live on YouTube.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first Parks Committee meeting of the 2023-24 year. I'm Diane Gennardis, and I'm the chair of this committee. I welcome you all. We are doing this as a hybrid meeting, so we have some individuals who are participating via Zoom and others that are here in the district office. The agenda this evening will be as follows. We have a representative from the Department of Parks who will give us a status update of the capital projects within Community District 10. And we are also looking forward to a presentation that will be given by a representative for New Yorkers for Parks, advocating to increase maintenance and operation funding for our parks. And we certainly have an awful lot of parks here in Community Board 10, and we love them all. So without further ado, you want me to start?
Yeah, no, I think we can go right into it and introduce Jim Mara. Jim, you're going to be doing the presentation?
Yeah, that'd be great if you don't mind.
Okay, so I'd like to welcome Jim and Chris Clay, who is our parks manager, and also who will be presenting later on, Carl Nelson, who is from New Yorkers for Parks. So without further ado, Jim, good to see you again.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me tonight. You know, Community Board 10 is some of the best parks. I mean, I won't say some; they are the best parks in the entire borough, and you have a lot of them. And coincidentally, there's a good amount of capital work, which is where Parks Department is very grateful for the work. But you know, everyone, it's a win-win situation because new parks are great. So saying that, so I am the director of capital projects for Brooklyn Parks. What does that mean? Well, I'm like an intermediary between our capital division, which is up in Flushing, Queens. They do all the parks, the new parks reconstruction throughout the city. I'm more on the local level, Brooklyn, and represent all the different community boards, but we have a good amount in Community Board 10, I would say, largely due to Councilmember Brandon, who's been very, very generous with funding for parks throughout all Bay Ridge, throughout the entire community board and beyond. So I have a quick presentation. If anybody has any questions, I'll put my contact information. It's a good amount of information that we're going to go through, kind of just basically overview of new parks coming, parks that just opened, parks that are going to close soon, the basics about each project, and kind of we have a little schematic design in this presentation to show everybody what's going on. But I'll just be doing high level, you know, explaining the projects when they're going to be happening. If anyone has any specific questions, obviously, please reach out to me. I have my email address that I'll continue to put into the chat. If there's anything more operational, I will bounce it to Chris Clay, our manager that's for this district. But Chris and I work together all the time. We work out of the same office. So we work together and you know a lot of this. So that being said, I won't take much more of anyone's time. I'm gonna let me see if I can do this pretty easily.
My email. Well,
what's up, Chris?
I'm just gonna put my email in the chat as well.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. All right. Here we go. Just so I only have one screen on my laptop here, so I'm gonna be flying a little bit blind. You should be able to see my screen now. Can everyone see this lovely picture top down? Fantastic. So looking at this Community Board 10, where all of you are, I'm assuming, are right now. First slide, let's see. So as Josephine was saying, we just had a ribbon cutting event for this new dog run. Specifically, it's no longer called the Shore Road Dog Run. We were able to name it after a gentleman that was involved in a tragic event. However, Frank Delcovenere, am I pronouncing that correctly? Fantastic. So that it's officially called that now. It's a beautiful dog run. We just opened it up a couple of days ago. Charlie loves it, from what I understand, as does many other dogs in the area. It is pretty instantaneous, where it's just, well, there's a lot of dogs in this neighborhood. So that's how we know when it's a good dog run, because certainly there's some dog runs where you open them, it's like, oh, dogs. But that's not the case. So that one was funded by Councilmember Justin Brandon, just opened just a little bit ago. Moving forward, if anyone's had any questions, I'll go through the spiel, but feel free to email me aside, give me a call, anything after this. I'm always available. So this is kind of a unique project in the closer to the 95th Street ramp, the ball fields. There is still some fencing up in the backside, closer to the parkway. that has to do with us wanting to make sure the grass grows in as much as possible before the grass season ends. And then we'll take the contractor will take the fence down. We're trying to kind of get as much growth out of this before the public kind of, it's just we're trying to get as much out of this contract. So the work is done. There's asphalt and a path work that was done around the field house in 5th Street. That was a mayoral project that kind of got delayed a little bit. So that's finishing up. This is Vinland Playground. You may have seen that construction recently started in the Vinland Playgrounds, obviously further from the field house. This is a unique project in that there's really not many vehicle entrances into Shore Road in this area. So this one is in construction right now. Trucks will be entering, and as they have been, entering at the 4th Avenue and Shore Road entrance up near the dog run, and then traveling to Vinland. That's the only way, unfortunately, that this project can get the materials it needs for the construction. So it is, and it's been going on already, but it's going to be a brand new, beautiful playground before you know it. Again, there is a lot of work specifically in playgrounds in Community Board 10 happening. Just want to prep people that we're getting into future work, namely this spring. That is going to be, this beautiful thing about Justin Brandon is that he funded everything very quickly, which is so great. The bittersweet part of that is at some point things do need to close, kind of similar timing. However, that means when they're all done, we get a bunch of new parks that are all awesome. I'll get into that. So this has been in Playground and part of Shore Road. Again, started this past summer. It's going to be finished in this upcoming center. Before I'm so excited to talk about these projects. I just want everyone to know. I'll give a quick spiel, again, not wasting too much everyone's time. Parks projects, these reconstruction projects are on a 3-year cycle. So when they get funded in a fiscal year, so right now we're in fiscal year 24, we start design in that fiscal year. It takes a year of design. First part of that is a scope meeting. We've had scope meetings for basically all of these projects. Scope meeting, the design period takes a year. Then we bid this project out. It's called the procurement period. After the design period, we get a contractor on board. That also takes another year. So that's 2 years in. And then the 3rd year is when you start seeing on the ground work, is when construction starts. So Vinland is now in the 3rd year of the capital process. The final year, the part that stings a little bit, but then after that, it's done. It'll be open, won't close again. So, but yeah, this is in the construction phase. Moving forward. So this one is a little bit of a mistake on my part. I do apologize. This one, so everyone knows the famous / infamous, I won't say what people think of it, but up closer to Shore Road and 4th Avenue is that very unique bathroom building, public bathroom that is kind of sunken down, but at the top there was like kind of a very ornate hangout area for the bus stop. We actually received funding from I believe the city council to demolish that building. So I just want people to know we haven't figured out the specifics just yet. That building is tricky for us, and I'll defer to Chris on the specifics of that, but it's tricky for us to maintain it. It's kind of it's a little bit scary there at night. I won't speak out of turn. So we did get funding specifically to demolish it and reorient the new building in the future. I won't say all we just got this funding, so I won't say all the details are figured out yet, but we already had a site visit to discuss demolition and reorienting.
Everyone who's familiar with the area knows just how sketchy going down those stairs, which are not in great condition, into a much older comfort set or much older restroom. It's just not an ideal situation, and we're hoping we can sort of do a 1-for-1 replacement and get some facilities in the area that aren't quite so sketchy and hopefully a little more modern.
And it's a weirdly, I'm sorry, go if anyone wants to comment on that on the sketch level.
It's last year we did a survey of all the restrooms in 410 within the parks. And so when you drive by and you see the building, it's one thing, but when you actually go down to the opening, it's very dangerous, and it's really sketchy is a good word. It was, I couldn't even imagine.
We're playing it down, if anything. It's a thing that we learn with time, is that these buildings really need to be sightlined, and we need to be able to see them, because otherwise it's New York City, and we all know how it goes. So we did. All I can say though is we did get funding to demolish it. We're going to figure out how to do that, and you'll be in the know throughout the process. Especially, frankly, where the dog run. Well, there was no dog run before, but now that there's dog run, there's increased attention. There will be increased attention to this park, and that area beforehand was just kind of a lot. So there wasn't that much reason for people to go over there. now there is with the dog run and children, families and stuff like that. So we want to make sure that we're not leaving an area that's a little bit spooky and during the day, frankly, too. So we'll figure it out though.
What would go in its place?
Sight lines are
Um,
something we're like cognizant of. So we want to make sure, any sort of patrols, whether it's parks enforcement or NYPD, can, has clear sight lines to the facility if they're doing it, even if they're just doing a drive-by. And that's obviously something that is not even remotely possible with the current building. So, we want everyone to be safe. That's our number one priority.
And to answer that question, we're frankly, I won't say that we have all the details figured out. This is an atypical situation. We typically don't just demolish buildings. We usually demolish them and then build a building exactly in its place. I can't think of anything. This is a very atypical building. Everyone knows it. So I will say it was probably just going to be, if anything, just replace what was there before, which is just, horticulture, sloping thing, better paths, increased security, safety, all that stuff. But I won't say everything. We haven't everything figured out yet, but it's a very high level process with our engineering architecture, process through this. So those things will be figured out, and the community board will be informed on throughout the process. For sure. Okay. So JJ Cardi, a little bit further north, up near Senior Center. So that's under construction right now. It ends just before what we call it the multi-purpose play area, which is like the courts and just a big asphalt area. That's under construction right now. I want people to know I don't have much information on it on this presentation, but the Triborough Bridge, the TBTA, is going to be kind of reorienting the ramp onto the red zone. So there's going to be a lot of work in JJ Cardi over the next 10 years. So I will give people just a heads up that they need to do a significant work on the bridge ramp up. And they've proposed different ideas about how that's going to happen. But, the building, the actual senior center will not be affected through this operationally. It may be, we are at the mercy of external agencies. And obviously the TBTA is incredibly influential about, it's the bridge. They need to do work. So I just want people to know that now is that over the next 10 or so years, you'll see a lot of work in JJ Cardi that doesn't really necessarily have to do with us. The work we do have scoped out though right now is the playground, which is going to be awesome. It's going to be, it's already chugging along, and it's going to be expanded and state of the art. As you can see some renderings of what it's going to look like below. That one started this past spring, will be completed in the spring. As I was alluding before, these are year-long contracts. And again, this is also funded by Councilmember Brandon. So if you see him around walking his two greyhounds to the dog run, please thank him for all this funding. It's much appreciated. Forward. Similar to what's happening in a couple other parks in Community Board 10, John Paul Jones. This is what we call state of good repair funding that we received. It's basically just to keep the asphalt paths in a park up to date, safe. A lot of times this asphalt can age fast, and it can get expensive because a lot of this process is like grading and making sure drainage is correct. So John Paul Jones is got funding to redo the paths in the park. Again, this is something we just received funding for. It would likely go through our in-house service, and I'll allude to what that is in some future projects. We haven't figured everything out yet, but we call this replacement in kind, meaning it's basically replacing exactly what's there. We're not going to be reorienting or adding any new paths or anything like that. It's just going to be basically updating the paths so they just look better, and adding seating, new benches, stuff like that. Russell Pedersen Playground, Pedersen, they're both. This is obviously right next to Fort Hamilton, the field next to the Fort Hamilton High School. Councilmember Brandon completely redid this entire, you call it compound, whatever you want to call it. New field within the past 5 years. That field's awesome. The school loves it. He just funded, and we just completed there's like a vertical line of courts. It's tennis courts and basketball courts. Those were just finished last year. This project got a little bit delayed because of COVID, but this is the playground that was funded. We went through the process, did scope meetings, stuff like that. This one will likely start this upcoming spring. So I said this before just to brace people. This is kind of the second half of a bunch of funding happening all at the same time, is that a lot of playgrounds in Community Board 10 are going to be closed at the same time throughout 24. Vinland, Russell Pedersen, JJ Cardi, I'll go to some others so I can explain. But it's a lot of work, but it's also it's just the city system, and at the end of it is going to be a lot of awesome new parks. So that being said, this one is not the entire site. It's the far east. I won't even say I know the orientation right now, but it's the playground proper. We also, as you'll see in this next slide, again, this is going to be full top down. The comfort station or the public restroom, I know it says that in this, we're calling public restroom now, is not included in this contract. It's not going to be, it's just the playground proper. Redoing the public restroom is extremely expensive. So we do what we can with in-house forces, but it won't be knocked down and replaced or anything like that. What we did receive this past fiscal year, however, is the remainder of the funding. So if you could see in this schematic here, you can see that it says not in contract here. However, we received additional funding from Councilmember Brennan this past fiscal year to actually redo that basketball court and handball court. Handball court is huge. From what we understand, not a lot of people use the handball courts. I won't say, I won't say I'm the expert on that. The community board is, and the high school is, but from what we understand, it's not as used as much. So we might introduce some other stuff, but that's not our call. We're gonna have a scope meeting this fiscal year to see what people want to see there. Likely be courts, likely be another basketball court, but I just want people to know that we've got additional funding for that.
It floods though. I think that's the issue.
Yeah.
That's
the
got to be
hand-
what it is. That makes more sense, honestly.
Yeah, I do see, I do see a lot of people playing handball there.
Oh, good. All right, good.
Specifically on Saturday mornings.
Okay.
But when it rains really hard, the back corner of that court floods. And
You can't even play.
you can't play until all that water leaves.
Yeah,
Forgive me, that's got to be why it was funded. It was probably it was something that, because sometimes we get these micro funds and it's a little bit of a mystery, but that makes a lot more sense. So I appreciate that.
the drainage is there, the back basketball court and the back handball court. Yeah.
Oof. That's not good.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
beginning
well, we'll be able to fix that.
to think about flooding during rain events, even dry weather event backups along Colonial Road,
Yeah.
really south of 86th Street all the way to the 90s. So over time, it's our complaints are increasing too.
I'm sure.
So-
I'm sure. Yeah. Drainage is all when drainage thing. It's seemingly an easy thing, but it's hard for us because it's so infrastructure based. But it ruins fun if no one wants. And then it's like mosquitoes and you get all these different things with drainage issues. So we'll be able to definitely fix that. And frankly, that means this whole compound will be basically done in the past like 6 years, which is a rarity that we can get such close parks. A lot of times people will be like, here. But again, Councilmember Brandon has been incredible with funding these different parks. So this entire area would be redone in the next, this will be going through the process, but soon we'll have a lot of stuff in this area and the high school. So, moving forward. So this one is going to sting, I'll be honest with you. The Owl's Head Park is also one that was funded. So I'll kind of go through the genesis of all this work. So this is on the north side of the park. So the north side of the park includes the basketball courts on the far west side as you kind of pull off the belt there and kind of pull in. So that area, the basketball courts, and then further east is the two kind of quasi. You can see them down here. There's like two playgrounds basically cut in half by an entrance in the middle. All of that has been combined in one contract because we did receive separate funding for those, but everything's been lumped into one contract for not only for easier for bidding to a contractor, but it means less time closure. So it means 1 year for all this work. It's going to be awesome when it's done, but that means it's a good chunk of the park that's going to be closed off for likely from 24, spring 24 to spring 25. It's all going to be new basketball courts. It's all going to be brand new state of the art. And it needs it, frankly. It's all, it's getting outdated and it's getting tired, but it's going to, that work is going to come up in spring of 24. So I alluded to this before, but that means Finland, JJ Cardi, Russell Peterson, Owl's Head Park, and Chris, correct me, I think that's it right now in Commuter Board 10, but all of those are going to be close for construction at the same time. It's just how the city works. I apologize. I think about the children that will lose their playground for this area, but it's really the only way that this can work out and get it open quickly without delays. That's kind of our name of the game, is get this done all once, and it kind of just depends on the timing for the system, the capital system. So that's what's going to be.
I mean, I think the silver lining here is that we were able to sort of like delay the Vinland closure. So we like we're seeing rolling closures, but that also means on the other side we're going to see rolling openings. So
Exactly.
when this is going under construction, we're going to be getting JJ Cardi back, and then when summer projects start, we should be getting Vinland back. So it one in, one out sort of deal.
Yeah. It's a happy problem. I mean, these aren't my local parks, nor am I a child that uses a playground regularly, so it's easy for me to say. But these are the good things when we get a surplus of projects, is that everything can get done. Try explaining that to a 5-year-old. I won't try it, but at the same time, it's the system. At the end of it, we're gonna have some awesome parks. We're very, very excited.
I can bring my 3-year-old and explain.
Yeah.
I mean, are my local
Explain it to him.
parks that I grew up with, and Councilmember Brennan's in the same position I am. Vinland, this was our childhood playground. So obviously a lot of feelings associated with these parks for some of us, and but the reality is that they need to be renovated. The equipment in Vinland is 30 years old. So I mean, it's all of this is overdue, and I think speaking for the children in the neighborhood, this is something we all want to see.
So this is something that is going to be additional to Owl's Head. So I alluded to this before at John Jay Park, that it has $2 million for asphalt work. This is also at Owl's Head Park. So this park is getting a triage of work happening at the same time, which is again, it is bittersweet in the sense of it's going to be closed for a while, but it avoids a long-term closure. So what we're doing is we're also doing the asphalt paths throughout, not all of them, but a good amount of the asphalt paths throughout Owl's Head Park are getting, they're getting tired, they're chipped, they're cracked, there's drainage issues, all these different things. We're going to be phasing this so it doesn't sting too much, because this is going to be happening at the same time as the courts and the playground. What that means, though, is that we're going to orient it where, as you could see in this photo, it's phased, so that you could still use the paths throughout the park. You can still use the park itself. You can still get to the grass. Most importantly, though, the bathrooms can stay open throughout this whole entire process. So there's no point in the future over the next, any of this work that the bathroom building in Owl's Head Park is going to be closed off for public use. It's always going to be open, as well as the dog run. There should be no reason to close the dog run there by the adult entrance there. So it's just going to sting a little bit. I just want people to know that it's going to be concurrently work happening at Owl's Head. Shouldn't be too bad. We have great contractors. It's just more people to know that it's going to be a lot of work on. Moving forward. So this is similar to that work is the same kind of funding. We call this in-house state of good repair funding. A lot of paths and some of the courts. We got a lot of money for this one. This is closer to Diker Beach Bay 8 area. There's some court work, a lot of path work around ball fields. So basically, you can see there's this big kind of crazy Art Deco bleachers. Like everything surrounding that is going to get a lot of asphalt work. And then at the bottom, so where am I? I'm trying to orient myself here.
Anyone who's familiar with this park,
yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
On the Bay, the tennis courts they're a hot mess. They're very, very deteriorated. So the work here really needs to be done.
So it's just throughout the park area, and this is kind of the more southern part of the park. We're getting a lot of court work, likely some pickleball courts, the magic word. However, this work is going to likely happen in 24, and so it's the same. So what we're going to do in Community Board 10 is it's the same team that is working on path work at Owl's Head work. It's going to be working on work here. We're mindful that this is a lot of work to have in one community board. So we're going to try to stagger it as best as possible so that there's not too many paths closed off in the park in the community board. Namely, if Owl's Head is closed for a little while, we'll keep this area open. They're not close. I'll acknowledge that. It's not like you could just walk from Owl's Head to this area, Diker Beach, easily. But we want to accommodate as best as possible the amount of work that you guys are getting. We understand it's a lot. It's a happy. It's close. But yeah, same here. There's going to be rolling path closures throughout the park to get the asphalt. And these contracts happen faster than a typical capital project, so they won't take a year. we'll be able to go through it pretty quickly. Can't say exactly how quickly, but it typically is much faster. Speaking of these bleachers, so at the Bay 8th area, there's these big, huge kind of Art Deco bleachers, huge kind of cement things. We also receive funding to demolish those and replace them with more of a modern thing. Big part of it is sightline stuff. Chris can attest, it's hard to see in that area at night, at day, anytime. If anyone's chilling there, you have to like go into the park. Not to say we don't want people hanging there, but it's time for new bleachers and stuff like that. We'll be able to update.
Your address doesn't coincide, just to let you know.
We'll say that one more time.
Yeah, the address
The
for
address.
Dyke Beach Park Bay 8 is not.
Nuts. I tried to pull one over on you. I'm sorry. I have some typos in here. I apologize.
No,
That makes sense though. Sorry
Just
about
wanted
that.
to attack you.
No, it's good. It's good. I have a lot of properties, but it's good when those, yeah, that's fine. But I'll fix that. Thank you for saying that. But the bleachers, that's where the bleachers I believe are. So yeah, those are getting demolished and replaced. Okay. So this one is work. Hello, we have a guest. We'll play there. Indeed.
Give her the Vinland explanation now.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll try my best. So this work is actually just completed. So this is at Dyker Beach Park. This is closer up, right, Dyker 14th. This is that large, huge softball area. We completed that work. It was just opened about a month ago or so. New asphalt in that area and new basketball courts. So you can see those 4 in a row, all new. This was a unique funding. This came through partially through DEP as part of our green infrastructure unit, but it's what you see on the ground is new asphalt and backboards, and so it's all pretty fancy, very basic projects. Some new, I think a water fountain too, but for the most part it's just new asphalt. Same thing with Patrick. Oh, sorry, go right ahead.
Question just going back. So
Yeah.
when you say it's managed by citywide services, what
Yes.
does that mean?
Great question. It really, those are just words. It's like buzzwords. So Citywide Services is a unit we have working out of Randall's Island. They do kind of smaller scope projects like this, like asphalt work, something that we call a limited scope project. So something basically like, if, say for instance at Owl's Head, we are completely redoing that park. It required a long design process where a lot of checks and stuff like that. A lot of our citywide services unit out of Randall's Island, they are parks employees, but they hire contractors, but they're just kind of smaller projects that can get done faster. Like say, for instance, you can see here, this started in I think it was May, we just finished. So it's very quick. It's a quicker process and it's just smaller scope projects that are a little bit easier. Because with a real capital project, we have to dig down into the earth, restart everything, kind of just start from scratch. This one, we call it we're more replacement time. It's not like we got new courts or anything out of this system. It's just kind of cool. So our citywide services just means parks. That being said, same thing at Patrick O'Rourke. Patrick O'Rourke we just got some new courts and a new asphalt area that is right next to it's a middle school. I can't remember off the top of my head. I apologize. It's Chris's middle school, for heaven's sakes. I apologize. Which school is that, Chris?
That's IS 201.
Yes. Right. So that's right next to IS 201, not far from Dyker 14.
Madeline Brennan.
Exactly.
Who I think was the principal there for 65 years or something like that.
Local legend.
A legend.
Well, great. Well, they were pleased with the new work and new basketball courts. So we are hopeful for funding for the rest of the playground. Obviously, on the further to the left of this picture is a bigger playground. So we hope to get that in funding in the future, but this one is a little bit of a smaller scale project.
Yeah.
So this one is we just went from smaller scope to massive scope. So this one affects both 10 and 11 along the shoreline there. People didn't know that the state of the actual shore parkway up, the actual walkway is deteriorating. It's pretty severe. We have a lot of work that needs to get done. It's a big project. We're still in the design phase to figure out exactly how to get that work done. But we expect work to start in the spring of 25. And it's probably going to be about a year long or a year and a half long process. It's a lot of work. It's the outfalls that go to the water. A lot of them are kind of deteriorating in a certain way. It's perfectly safe now, but in long term, we do need to fix it. Anyone that has been on the shore, this is not news to anybody. It's help. So that being said, we're figuring out how to accommodate bike riders on the path during that time. but everything is still in design and it will be brought continuously as it has been to the community board. And that. So if anyone has any specific questions about this, feel free to email me. I'll be able to kind of gather information about it because it's sort of being led by our engineering division as well as our capital division. It's a big project. It's not as simple as a playground. It's a lot of work. So.
And if you guys remember, I think we had that double barrel. It was Ida and Sandy, like back-to-back years that they did a number on this. So, we're trying to increase resiliency along the waterfront here.
So CB10 has been advocating for design and engineering study of the outfalls along the shore, post Sandy. We were out there. We know that a lot of the problems that we're seeing with the conveyance system is related and some of the backwater flows from the outfalls. I think we had a briefing some time ago at one of the outfalls on 17th Avenue related to the right by the in the CB11 portion, and it was Parks shared with us some of the engineering footage of one of those outfalls.
Scary.
Bad shape, and this is ultimately $8 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but it's really a band-aid, a fancy band-aid, I would say, especially to some of the outfalls. Do you know if the work is limited to the one outfall, or there are two additional ones along the path?
Yeah, I need to. I will say I need to connect up with our division that's working on this. I don't have specific numbers of the amount of outfalls. I do know it's substantial work, and you can kind of see the red line. This is what it's affecting. So if you can imagine, it's like, I mean, I won't say it is in CB11, but it's going to be starting closer to like where Target, like Kohl's is over there by what's that, Bensonhurst Park, and then moving up towards you guys, towards the Verrazano, as you can see in this red line. That's where that's where they localize the most of the work needs to get done. But Josephine, as you were saying, yeah, we had like an on-site thing, and our engineering division is able to.
I think down the road, joint meeting with DEP and kind of go over some of the joint concerns. So thank you.
Of course, yeah. It does have a lot to do with them too, because it's their outfalls, and we're working with them as well. So back to exciting park stuff. So we've been working on this one for a little while. McKinley Park, the playground is going to get reconstructed. That is likely a year from now in terms of starting reconstruction. So it's going to be it's not going to be the bathroom building. I just want people to know, but the extent of the work it's a unique system, or it's a unique way. It's going to be the playground proper. We're going to kind of reorient stuff. We're actually eliminating the entrance to the park here. Because it's a little bit of a safety concern. We're going to reorient some stuff so people can come in through and out here. But the entrances everywhere else, like you can still get into the park here and here and all those things. We're also actually going to be eliminating the bocce court up here. It's kind of just there right now to jump. Chris can attest. It's kind of collects trash and weeds and stuff like that. So we're going to be eliminating that and kind of replacing the grass. But that's the extent of it. Is on the playground. Again, that's going to be in fall of next year, the start of construction, and then it's going to be the contract. We just got funding for the tennis courts, though, down here. Maybe pickleball, who knows? But that's up to you guys at a scope meeting this upcoming fiscal year. We received a good amount of money to reconstruct these tennis courts down here. So McKinley is also getting a lot of love. It needs it. It's getting a little bit tired. And it's an iconic park in the area, not in the area, in the city. So these kind of parks definitely deserve substantial funding. And just so the community board knows, this is an upcoming scope meeting. We'll be reaching out to the scope meeting within this fiscal year to discuss, the scope meeting process, just like we have in the past, and what people want to see here. Maybe it's pickleball, maybe not. Who knows? But sensing the temperature of the city, it might be. So not only, I won't say that's tennis players, but it's definitely popular these days.
I think that's going to be very competitive. A lot of tennis goes on there. So
really, okay, that's good to know. Yeah, then it's funny because sometimes depending on tennis courts, like down in Marine Park, we just swapped out some tennis courts for. It just depends on the tennis courts because like sometimes they're really really busy, and maybe honestly we might not even be able to switch them out. I know at Leaf Erickson we switched out a couple tennis courts for pickleball, and it was a big hit. But it just depends on the area and depends on what people like and don't like. So we'll see what comes up in the scope. Okay, now we're getting into a little bit of a grander scope. So this is, you may have heard a little bit about this as Public Greenways project. It affects a lot of, you could kind of see, I know this is kind of small, but this is the path that it goes, and we call these focus areas. This is up near Owl's Head and Leaf Erikson. You can kind of see what a rendering may look like of this work that's happening. I want to just be honest. We're going to be reaching out in the fall to schedule a first scope meeting and an announcement. I know there's a special guest here that has helped fund, the State Senator Granardis has helped fund some of this stuff. And I don't want to treat this like an official announcement. I don't want to get the cart before the horse or anything like that, but I just want people to know that this work is planned out. There's focus areas that are going to be affected, as in this picture you can see. Owl's Head and Leaf Erikson is what we're calling the first focus area phase, moving down to underneath the Verrazano. A lot of this does affect Community Board 11 more, and then into Community Board 13. I won't, there's not information that I have on this presentation about that, but if people have questions overall about the project, it's a very well-funded system, and we're going to be speaking a lot more about it this fall, not only to the community board, but multiple community boards. And you'll all be very involved in this process as it affects multiple areas throughout the community board. So this is the first one, new seating, greenway. This is basically to connect up parks so that, bikers and things like that can make it from up north down to Cone Mountain in a way that makes sense and is tied together. And it will also include some new bathrooms and stuff like that. I don't have the most information on this presentation right now because we're kind of not waiting, but I want to be able to be solidified in the messaging in this and the scope meeting process as we move forward towards that. So the next slide, similar. This is down near the Verrazano, underneath Verrazano rather. And we will be having a scope meeting for this work as well in fall 2024. So the next, honestly, week or two, you'll be hearing from me. Namely, Josephine will be hearing from me about this work that's upcoming. I believe that's it for right now. Again, if there's any questions, I do not want to take too much of your time. I know that kind of long-winded, but you guys have, by and large, the most work out of a community board, and at least in Brooklyn. So it's something to be proud of for your local elected officials because they're working. It's the elected officials are doing work. They're funding stuff. They're doing all that. So we're so excited to have Justin Brandon fund all this stuff.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
I have a quick question that's unrelated to these projects.
Of course, please.
Last night at our general CB10 meeting, and somebody is very, very concerned over the number of rats that are in the parks.
Right.
Asked me to bring it up to the Parks Department to see what can be done about it.
Well,
And
there's
it's
a whole,
citywide
there's a
project.
whole plan, and we've been working at the district office, Diane, with Parks, with Chris Clay and the team on remediation efforts at Owl's Head, at Shore Road Park, at Dyker Beach Park. But I think we spoke, Chris, at the dog run a little bit about it, and maybe if you want to give a little update. You say we think we've turned the corner.
Of course. So, obviously summer is the big time rat time. There's just so many more people in the parks. You have barbecues, there's more food in the parks, which means more food sources for rats, which means more rats. So, our big areas of concerns, like you said, Owl's Head and Shore Road specifically. Dyker Beach, we do have some rat issues there, but not nearly as much as we've seen in Shore Road and Owl's Head this summer. The big surge we had this summer, contrary to last summer, was up in the 90s. We had a lot of problems by the gazebo, down by the overpass, crossing over to the waterfront, and then by the Oliver Street entrance to down to Vinland. So we've done some serious cleanups down in that area by the gazebo and by the overpass. That it was really bad down there. I'm not gonna mince words. So we've done a lot of targeted extermination cleanup. Our gardeners have been out removing brush, which creates habitat for the rats. We've also done some of that in Owl's Head as well. We're going to try and do some more of that down by 79th Street and 72nd Street, resources allowing. I'm hoping we've turned the corner, like you said. The weather is a help here. So hopefully, we can get more targeted efforts. I do encourage everyone, community members and community board members, if you see an area that has a lot of rat activity, please let us know. This lets me, really give our exterminators precise locations to target. And areas for my staff to concentrate their cleanup efforts on as well.
Thank you.
Okay, okay.
I have a quick question. For all the playground stuff, are you guys gonna put up signage so that people know what's coming and that there will be closures?
Yeah, so it's atypical to have this many closures in a small area. I will say that we typically work on a borough level and it's kind of scattered. So we put up signage about upcoming closures, and we typically put what the closest park that has a similar amenity is. But yeah, we typically 2 weeks out of what we call an OTW, which is just an order to work date. Basically, it shifts the property temporarily from Parks Department to a contractor that is their property to take over. Essentially, we put that up 2 weeks beforehand, typically, and so that is it's basically telling people that it's going to be closed. We also notify the council member, community board. It's not perfect because we have trouble sometimes getting everyone's attention out of that, but we do put signs up and that the park is going to close. We did for sometimes it doesn't work as best as laid out, but our plan is to do that. And then we did that with Vinland. We're going to do that with Russell Peterson, and now specifically, honestly, I'm going to put signs up 2 months out of Owl's Head, because it's going to be a big one that people are gonna.
Yeah.
It's a regional. It's an iconic park. A lot of people use it that may not even live around there. So we're going to put up as many signs as possible in that area about what's happening.
Thanks. And then,
With Owl's Head.
Yeah.
Is that going to affect the Halloween walk and things like that?
Yeah, I mean that's the tricky part, is that we have our permits office that we work with, Nancy Melissa. I'm not sure if anybody's worked with her, but she permits out and she has a good flavor of what's going on in each park. There's a lot of stuff in Owl's Head. I won't be, I'm preaching to the choir. That is a multi-use park, in every sense of the word. It's like a butterfly effect. You close one thing and then that is affected. This is affected. This gets shifted over there. That gets shifted over here. So things will be affected. And that's why I just wanted to let people know now that, this is going to happen and people are going to be affected, but they'll get back something awesome. But yeah, it will affect a lot of things we have permitted there. We're using our permits office to notify people hey, and we're giving them options for alternative parks in the area. Doesn't work as good when all the parks are closed, but again, happy problems. It's good to have this much construction. It's easy for me to say, but because I work in construction. But yeah, to answer the question, Diane, there's going to be public effects in some parks that some things happen in the park.
I think the phasing at Owl's Head, a lot of the big holiday events will still be able to happen. They might not be in their regular location. They might have to be shifted over a little bit. But I mean, I don't, if the playground is closed, in the spring, we can still have Viking Festival by the park house like we did this year. Same thing. If the other set of paths are closed in the fall, we'll still be able to have the Halloween event on the other side of the park, closer to the playgrounds. So I think, and I work with Nancy regularly. Whenever she has any sort of questions about, specific siting for these events, and the community is really great about reaching out to her and working with her and myself to get these sites really where they need to be. I think we'll be able to work with everybody and get these events going. I don't think we're not gonna cancel anything major. We might have to relocate a little bit, but we'll get the events happening.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks.
Okay, that was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Of course, anytime. And
Alrighty.
you have my contact information in the chat as well. If anybody, so it's easy email, james.morris@parks.nyc.gov. If anyone has any questions, complaints, or anything about capital projects, that's what I'm here for. If it's more operations, I'll defer to Chris. But if it's anything about the capital projects coming up, of which you have a lot, please feel free. I'm always available. And kind of the best way to find out about projects on a more local level is been to these parks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't see
Thank
any
you.
questions or hands.
Chris, one other thing, this is probably more operations, but I noticed graffiti on the cannon at John Paul Jones Park the other morning.
Oh, really?
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know who
Chris,
deals.
you know about that graffiti on the cannon at the?
They had the Dover Patrol Monument and the cannon, I think, in the overnight. And we had monuments came out to take care of the Dover Patrol Monument, and my staff was able to get rid of the graffiti on the cannon. If they hit it again, like in the last couple of days, I'll double check. But I mean, we had removed the graffiti from the cannon. But if you're talking week, we had taken care of that.
Yeah, I think I noticed it like a few days ago, so maybe you already got to it.
Last week, I think. I feel like around about then. But yeah, we took care of that.
Oh,
It's
great.
a good catch, though. We appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Anything like that, especially if it's with a monument or something significant like that, just let me know right away. And like Jim said, you have my contact information too. Just send it right to me, and I'll get my guys out there.
Thank you.
And Richard, we understand that. We get that. The pesticide application. I work specifically in the capital projects. Sometimes it can get unwieldy with signage. So noted. And we strive to do better with that kind of notification. I'm
not a fan of those signs either, because now I have to try and take that horrible masking tape off of every light pole and fence. Yeah, I'm not a fan of those signs either. I'm not going to point a finger at anybody, but it wasn't me.
We'll just play that. It wasn't me. It wasn't Chris. It was play like that. But we know how it goes. It's annoying when you show up to your local park and that kind of stuff. It's just like it's thoughtless sometimes. So we strive to really have thought behind these notifications because you're the users. You're the ones using them day in and day out. We want people to respect that.
Well, I want to thank you for this very comprehensive presentation, and we're very excited about all the good things that are going to happen to our park. So thank you very much.
Of course, no, anytime.
And so we will move now to our other presentation, New Yorkers for Parks, and I'd like to welcome Chris Nelson, and we're ready for you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me tonight. And it's really exciting to hear about all the capital projects happening in the district. I will share my screen. Can everybody see?
Yeah.
Oh, no, what just happened there? Just a moment. All right. A little bit about New Yorkers for Parks. To start off, we're established in 1908. We're the only independent citywide organization advocating for the equitable development, distribution, and maintenance of parks and open spaces throughout New York City. So we've been doing this work for a long time, and we work through a combination of partnerships, advocacy, and research. We're also co-founders of the Playfair Coalition. This coalition is over 400 members strong. It includes conservancies, friends of groups, park stewards, community gardeners, volunteer groups, all advocating for and elevating parks issues on the local level and on the citywide level. And we founded the coalition alongside the New York League of Conservation Voters, as well as District Council 37, the Parks Workers Union. And we work closely with the Parks Committee Chair, Shekhar Krishnan, in District 25. This is the coalition. We also publish research. Most recently, we released the 1% for Parks Impact Report, which is an in-depth look at what an increase in NYC Parks funding to 1% of the total city budget would mean for New Yorkers, for the park system, and for the Parks Department and parks workers, which we'll get into more in a little bit. We also release the open space profiles every few years. This is a snapshot of parks, percentage of parkland, park accessibility, availability in each community district, alongside socioeconomic data and public health data. And most recently, we released these in 2021. And that's a resource that community members can use to advocate for expanding or improving parkland in their district. I'm here today to talk about our primary campaign, which is the 1% for Parks campaign. We're calling on the mayor to allocate 1% of the total NYC expense budget to the NYC Department of Parks and Recreation. This is something that the mayor has committed to but hasn't followed through on. So we're trying to get support around this campaign. To understand how we got to that 1% number, it's helpful to look back at the past 50 years of budget history in the city. Up until the 1970s, parks received around 1.4% of the total operating budget of the city. During the fiscal crisis in the 70s, parks funding was cut, as well as funding for a number of other agencies to avoid bankruptcy. But in the decades since, as the city's economy has recovered and its population has grown, parks funding has remained just at around 0.6%. So we haven't come close to recovering that budget loss. When you compare the Parks Department to other city agencies, you also see how far we're falling behind. Other agencies have grown by as much as 165% over the past few decades. The total NYC expense budget has grown by 127%, but Parks hasn't kept pace with just about 72% growth. It's also striking to compare to other cities throughout the US. DC, San Francisco, LA, Chicago, and Minneapolis all allocate between 1% and 5% of their budgets to their parks departments, despite having significantly less parkland. We spend less as a percentage of our expense budget, as well as less on parks per capita. Parks are a public-facing boots on the ground agency. The parks workers maintaining the park system. So this disinvestment, you see it as a loss of staffing, through an understaffed agency. Despite population growth of over 1 million over the past few decades, we've seen a sharp decline in the number of parks workers, meaning it's harder to maintain the parkland that we do have. And this budget breaks down into a number of staffing lines. Looking at the details can also give some perspective. Parks in New York City has 1 gardener for every 114 acres, whereas San Francisco and Chicago have 1 gardener for every 18 acres. So it's incredibly difficult for the gardeners that we do have to maintain, the amount of parkland that we have. Rec centers is another interesting detail. Rec centers at their best can be community centers. They can host really high quality programming and have athletic facilities. But we've seen sharp decline in rec center funding throughout the past few decades, making it difficult for them to live up to their full potential. Another striking comparison, NYPD overtime is about a little over 50 million more than the total operating budget for NYC Parks, maintaining all 30,000 acres of parkland. We surveyed park stewards in the Playfair Coalition. These are groups that oversee specific neighborhood parks. 85% recorded an increase in usership over the last 3 years. People are seeing an increase in usership all throughout the year, and especially outside of the traditional busy season. So people are using these spaces more often and more frequently out of the normal season. 53% also saw and expressed safety concerns, which aligns with what the mayor has released in his 2023 preliminary management report. We think that the solution to this increase in crime in the parks is increasing the uniform presence of parks workers. Currently, there's only 1 PEP officer, Parks Enforcement Patrol officer, for every 333 acres. So they're just spread so thin that it's really difficult to monitor and to be a presence in these parks. A few of the tangible benefits of an increase in parks funding to 1% of the city budget from our report. This means cleaner and better maintained parks, safer parks, quicker repairs, avoiding longer closures. In a place like District 10, happening with a bunch of capital projects happening simultaneously, increasing parks funding can ensure that that maintenance is happening more regularly, so that those larger, more long-term closures don't happen when maintenance issues turn into capital issues. Our park system and our natural areas are also our best defense against extreme weather and a changing climate. So we can fortify these spaces by investing in them. It also goes into improved safety conditions for workers and improved cultural programming. Parks have obvious benefits for our physical and mental health, and they also have tangible economic benefits. they save and generate billions of dollars for New Yorkers every year. Another reason why we need to invest in them accordingly. The mayor supports this campaign. He supported it as borough president. He supported it as a mayoral candidate, and he has publicly reaffirmed his commitment as mayor, but he hasn't followed through. So we're doing what we can to keep the pressure on and not let him forget that commitment. We also have 44 council members in support of the campaign and no council members in opposition. And additionally, we have over 10,000 petition signatures, this point closer to 11,000 New Yorkers who are signing on to the campaign, and the message is resonating with them. So the main reason I'm here today is to call on Community Board 10, asking you guys to issue a letter of support, a resolution in support of this campaign. We have a number of other community boards already on board, and we hope that you will join them. Thank you so much. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. You know, it seems like 1% is nothing,
Right.
but it really can afford a lot of things that we need for our parks, etc. And I applaud you for advocating for this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We're not in, how do we do this now?
Right, so we could still make a recommendation and vote. We'll just need a second at the general board meeting.
Okay,
Absolutely. And we have template resolutions and letters for your use or for your reference that we can send over.
Okay, great.
that would be very, very helpful.
So we would just need a motion to support.
Is there any discussion amongst the committee members?
This would just be a letter that we would just send.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
it's fine with me. I don't have any issues.
So
Mhm.
can I have somebody make a motion to?
I'll make the
Okay.
motion.
Okay, we need a second. Henry?
Okay, Henry.
Okay, discussion. So Richard Day, Richard, do you have your hands up to the discussion?
No, that was for seconding.
Oh, for seconding, okay.
Thank you very much.
Any discussion on the motion?
No.
Okay, then I'm gonna change the view so we can see all of the board members for a vote.
Okay,
Okay,
so
So
board members, all in favor?
All in
Can you
favor?
signify by raising your hands? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's everyone who's here.
yeah,
Okay,
so we do have a quorum, just not in person.
okay.
Okay,
Great.
so that carries, and yeah, Carl, if you could just send me over where you would like the reso or the letter to go to, so we could send it
Will
to
do,
you in
absolutely.
advance, and so we'll be ready to vote at the October board meeting.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
There was some questions, Diane, remaining in the chat about the, since we still have Chris Clay here, and this is a common question about, the, enforcement of electric, or these mopeds along the bike path on Shore Road. I have to tell you, every day we get complaints. We do refer out, and I know the local 68 precinct has done some enforcement. There was a pretty serious crash there involving a pedestrian not long ago, that many residents called up. Is that something that we can continue to ask? I know that there is a survey taking place for the Shore Road path, the bike path, which now there's a pilot, I believe, that permits the motorized scooters, but not those that are not permitted, but it's kind of difficult for the layperson. I know that enforcement is on it.
Yeah, I'm actually not 100% clear on this program myself. I believe it's an e-bike pilot, so it's mostly targeted to those. Motorized, like gas motorized vehicles are still, from my understanding, are still very much not allowed. I know we still see them a lot, particularly on the promenade and even in some of the parks. We came across one in Diker the other day. So I can try and get you guys some more information on that, some more like official messaging on it at least. This is a mayor's office program. It's really kind of my level, but I can get you some more of the official documents regarding that hopefully can answer any questions that come up from the community.
We're hearing from pedestrians and cyclists. Who are concerned.
Yeah, I'm on the bike path a lot
Yeah,
and I almost got in crashes. I can't tell you how many times.
yeah.
They whiz
I
by
almost
me.
got hit. I almost got hit today in Prospect Park. I almost got just smeared. It's terrifying.
Very, very.
Terrifying.
I'll walk home along the promenade pretty frequently. So you see them, they're out. It's a little crazy.
And speeds and, we were talking with the chair too. We may look at this separately on our traffic and transportation committee as well, because it's a growing concern that I think we should absolutely have a conversation about. Okay, all right, well, that.
Any other questions? That was it?
That was all.
Okay.
And
Well,
I'll send just one last thing. I'll send the presentation I did to the community board so everyone can look at it. You can send it around. It's public information. It's just organized in a way so it's easy to read. So I'll send it along so everyone can have it.
sounds great. Thank you all for your presentations this evening. Thank you all for participating this evening. And we will be reporting at the October 16th meeting.
Yep, very good.
So
Thank you so much.
have a